I just completed a full year without using any social media. 365 days of no Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and 0 uploads to my OnlyFans. Okay, I never actually had an OnlyFans, it's not really my lane. Also, my traps are too small and no one subscribed. Looking back on the last year, giving up social media has easily been one of the most valuable habit changes I've ever made. And while quitting entirely may not be the right decision for everyone, I want to break down all the benefits I've experienced since going offline, what I've missed out on, and why I ultimately decided it was time for me to log off. For context, my first experience with social media came in 2007 when I set up my first Facebook profile. Yep, this is me in high school with hair. At the time, it was a completely new way to chat with friends, share moments from your life, and stay connected. It was a genuine social experience for me, but as time passed and more platforms arrived, the way I interacted with these platforms slowly began to shift, from a social website to something much more chaotic. Memes, drama, breaking news, people getting dunked on, figuratively and literally. Keeping up with friends had been completely replaced by the promise of being entertained. And I say the promise because it really was the random nature of what I might find each day that kept me coming back. I would find myself opening the app, scrolling until I was bored, then switching to another app, scrolling to find the next exciting or funny thing, and then doing it all over again. The anticipation was the draw. It didn't matter if I felt satisfied when it was over, even if I closed the app feeling depressed, anxious, or like I just wasted a whole hour of time. The craving to log back on hit just as hard the next day because I didn't know what I would find. When I made the decision to quit, the first thing I realized was just how addictive my use of these apps had become. In order for me to break this habit, I had to put continuous roadblocks in my way to prevent myself from logging back on. This started with locking down my accounts, removing the apps from my phone, and adding a web blocker to my desktop so I didn't just switch over to Twitter while I was working. For the first 3 weeks, I would find myself reaching for my phone whenever I felt bored or distracted. I would catch myself swiping back and forth even after the apps were deleted. And that instinctive response to go to our phones whenever we feel bored is a habit that doesn't just affect me. People who take their phones into restrooms tend to spend almost twice as much time in there as people who don't. Researchers have even noticed that the rising popularity of smartphones correlated with a steady decline in the sale of chewing gum, as more and more people now just scroll their phones as they wait in checkout and don't even think to buy any. In my experience, it took me a little over 3 weeks before I actually started to break the habit of boredom triggering a desire to go online, as I slowly learned that I wasn't going to get that random reward whenever I opened my phone. Once this change finally clicked for me, the first thing I noticed was how much I started to feel mentally rested through the day. I think one of the biggest productivity traps I fell into when I was in my 20s was this concept that I couldn't let any valuable time go to waste. If I wasn't working toward my dream project, I needed to be filling every possible second bettering myself. And what I eventually realized was not only was this approach exhausting, it's exactly the opposite of what our mind actually needs. If I was thinking of my brain like a sponge trying to soak up as much skill and knowledge as possible, you eventually reach the point where the sponge is full, and you need to let it dry out if you want to absorb anything else. In our brain, this process of absorbing and remembering new information happens during periods of rest, primarily when we're asleep. But this process is even more effective when we allow ourselves small rests throughout the day. This can be done by taking 5 to 10 minutes to do an activity you find restful. This could be doodling, puzzling. I will sometimes juggle at my desk. When we take these short breaks, our brain goes into what's almost like a default mode, where we tend to recall and solidify memories, we think more creatively, and when it's time to actually focus back and go to work, it's much easier to get back into a gear and enter a focused state. When I was using social media between my tasks, I wasn't giving my mind any time to enter that default mode. Instead, I was alternating between deep work and scrolling Twitter. A morning workout, more scrolling Twitter. Edit a video, continue scrolling without giving myself a moment to pause and recharge as the day moved along. This is likely the reason why researchers have repeatedly found a link between high use of social media and poor memory retention. Though there are competing theories as to why this happens, with the other hypothesis being that frequent social media use leads to us feeling more depressed, more anxious, and when we're just more depressed and anxious, we remember less stuff. I can't say getting rid of social media actually did much to improve my own mood, but I think that has more to do with the fact that one of the reasons I actually decided to step away was because I had just gotten out of a very long relationship, and I kind of suspected going onto a platform where people share the highlights of their life probably wasn't going to be a good place for me for a while. Did going offline help me feel better about where I was and what I was going through? Absolutely not. For a considerable time, I felt pretty terrible. What going offline did for me, though, was it forced me to deal with those feelings I was going through rather than trying to just cope by scrolling and browsing and distracting myself online. Giving up social media through this period was really about taking away a vice that could easily become a numbing strategy to avoid what I was going through. I had already lived through 2020 and knew the appeal of just doom scrolling my way through a bad situation, and I didn't want to give myself that out. Taking this option away meant I had to actually do the hard thing and work through what I was going through. I had to reach out and call friends when I needed to talk, rather than escaping into the surface level interactions that were available online. None of this was particularly fun, and I would have much rather logged on and just followed the latest Twitter drama of the day, but it wouldn't have got me anywhere. And given the effect scrolling has on us, it probably would have made things a lot worse. The final thing that really changed for me, and the reason I have decided to continue staying away from social media, is the amount to which I feel I have reclaimed control over my time. Going offline didn't just help me establish better work habits, it reduced the amount of time I spent procrastinating before a workout, or just before any hard thing that I wanted to delay doing. I have more free time in the evenings and weekends, and I actually spend that time doing things I enjoy, whether that's playing pickup at the course, reading a book, or just going out with friends. As someone who went through high school pretty much before social media became a big thing, and then went through college without a smartphone, the challenge of controlling your time and attention has never felt more real, and what I've realized as much as anything else since I started working on this channel is that managing your time in a way that reflects your priorities is well over half the battle. Has quitting social media come with trade-offs? Absolutely. I certainly miss some of the jokes and drama that come with being online, and I've missed the opportunity to go out to certain events because the invitations were just sent out via Instagram. If I'm at a party and I run into someone that's really interesting and I want to connect with them again, I now have to be really intentional about getting their number because I don't have the option of just finding them online later on. So yes, there are trade-offs, and I'm not going to say anyone watching should absolutely follow what I've done. But if you are looking at the amount of time you spend on some of these platforms and are considering taking a break, I think it's really worth asking what it is you feel like you're getting out of them, and if you do step away for 30 days or 60 days, you might be surprised by the benefits you see and how little you miss them. Whether or not you use social media, you want to make sure your online data remains safe and secure, and for that, I want to recommend the sponsor of this video, NordVPN. With NordVPN, all your internet data is protected behind a wall of advanced encryption that redirects your data through servers around the world. What this does is randomize your data to any third-party observer that wants to collect your information or bombard you with spam. They protect against malware and reduce your risk of becoming a victim of online fraud. One account with Nord allows you to protect up to 6 devices at once, and as someone who has about as little technical know-how as anyone you'll meet, I love knowing that Nord's team is protecting my data and devices so I don't do something stupid and wind up getting my information stolen. If you go to our link in the description, NordVPN is offering a huge discount on their 2-year plan, plus 4 free additional months. That comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you are not satisfied for any reason, they will refund your entire order. Keep your online data safe and secure with NordVPN and sign up through our link below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.